Joey.
Yeah.
What's your topic? Are you still sinking? Do we need to grab the other chair?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
I'm not.
Well, I want to bring this down.
Is that? Are they both broken now? That's what's happening?
We don't know. Nobody knows.
We just need new chairs.
I believe 2 of them are broken.
These
were not cheap chairs. We
used them for a
5
while
of them?
though.
It's fine.
Get cool, Greg. Get
It's
cool,
only
Greg.
been like
Get
a
cool,
year.
Greg.
Cool, Greg.
You're spinning the wrong way.
You know what?
That doesn't sound good.
I spin both ways.
Guys, it doesn't sound good. That's not true. You know you don't.
You know what? You know what? You know
I don't know.
what?
I feel like we have proof of that.
We just spin it. We just spin
Can you
it. We just
switch-
spin
can you
it.
Switch Joey's chair out, please.
Does that have tape
I don't
on it?
think.
This is broken
I don't
now?
think either of these work.
Yeah, that's
So
the
it's
broken
fine.
one.
Both
so
broken.
they're
It's
both
totally
broken.
Kevin, order me some
I'm gonna
hammock
need you to
chairs.
stand.
Oh.
And some dominoes.
Can we?
Kevin, order my usual Domino's order. Joey, what's your topic? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry to like bring this down a notch. I wanted to go with like a more serious topic
Sure.
today. So I want to talk about when your like creative outlet becomes your job.
Oh,
So-
because you work here now,
Because I do work here now,
full time,
full time.
and this used to be your respite.
This used to be like what I.
Yeah, round of applause for Joey, everybody.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
But for a long time, all of this is what I did for fun on the side, like after my normal job. So it's like a weird like recalibration of how do I establish boundaries, and then like I have to find a new.
Without you,
Go ahead.
I want.
I like all
the
the
bourbon was a
musical
bad
interviews.
idea.
I'm gonna give you a piece of advice going
Yeah.
forward in your career with us.
Okay.
This is just gonna keep happening. Just talk right.
I
through
like
it.
all-
Just talk right through it.
It's so
Greg does it to me
distracting,
all the
though.
time. It's perfect.
But yeah, so it's been a weird adjustment of okay, how do I what do I do with like my creative energy now, and what do I do?
So I want you to bring me up to speed on this, because this is something that was fascinating, mainly for obviously for you right now because we're having this conversation. But when Andy came on board, because when Andy came through, and I keep expressing this to people, and like, oh man, and Kind of Funny seems like it's doing great. I'm like, it's doing awesome. Like we've hired people, and and when I was like, Andy's the first one who uprooted his life for us.
Yeah.
And that didn't dawn on me for the longest time. Now, granted, we were going through a whole bunch of changes and different things, but it was the idea of like, oh yeah, he's driving out here right now from Austin, and I was like, fuck. Like, if it all collapsed tomorrow, cool, Greg, Kevin, they were already in San Francisco, and they were already Tim's lackeys. They'll be his lackeys forever, no matter what happens. We'll figure it out, blah, blah. But for like you guys to change your lives and come here,
Yeah.
for everybody at home, Joey, what was your induction to Kind of Funny, and what role were we playing in your life?
So I had no.
Bye, Nick.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I had no horse in the race for anything games related
Yeah.
for like the majority of my life. And then I ended up meeting these guys who were going to school for environment art. So they had been like long time, like Beyond fans and stuff like that.
How did you meet these guys?
Friends with like their roommates.
I met him
Gotcha.
at E3.
Oh yeah, you did meet.
Yeah.
Did you meet Jordan too or just Galen?
I think just Galen.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and I kind of fanboyed out because he works at Santa Monica with one of the character artists that I grew up like idolizing when I was in art school.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, do you work with Raphael Grassetti?
Oh, yeah, I met him at E3 last
and
year.
he was like, yeah, I do. I was like, holy shit! Like that guy was like,
Yeah.
We like every day in class we were looking at that dude's portfolio
He's
and like
real
just,
good.
oh man, this fucking guy is God. You know, it was really cool for me. I don't know.
Yeah. Galen's awesome.
So you meet them
Yeah. They're going to Art Institute. And then
down in the LA area or
Orange County.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then like I have no interest in like games or anything like
Sure.
that. Their room is like covered with like God of War posters and stuff. I'm like, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. But then like slowly but surely Galen was like, hey, I wanna show you a video. I was like, okay, what are we watching? And he's like, it's this guy that reviews Oreos. I'm like, that sounds dumb. And then we watched it was dumb and I loved it. So we did that, and then like then I did like a conversation with Colin and Greg Way, and then you guys had like just started your podcast.
Sure.
So I did all of your like non-gaming stuff.
Gotcha.
before
Well, that's what it all was at
Yeah.
the time, right? Kind of
But
Funny
then I was
only
like,
existed on it.
oh, they do more content, but it's all games related. And I tried it, and I was like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. And then like slowly after Kind of Funny like existed and you guys left, then I started to get more like interested in games and stuff like that again, because I'd played when I was younger.
Sure.
And hadn't gone back to them for like 10 years. So now I'm like playing Stardew Valley all the time.
How many hours into Stardew Valley are you?
Like 160.
Jesus God. So this all happens. You work a normal job.
I do, or I did.
You did. How are we fitting in there? How did you consume the content? Were we a distraction at work, or were we something?
Oh yeah, 1,000%. I'm not gonna say that's why I'm not there anymore, but that's it probably had a place in that catastrophe.
Sure.
But yeah, so I was like, I usually like moved it around. So like I was watching Colin and Greg live. I took like an early lunch and was like in the chat there and stuff like that. And then like podcasts and stuff that I would just listen to.
Nice.
But it was always, once you get like, or at least for me, once I got into the community, it was like kind of consuming of like, oh, these people are really fun and we have similar interests. Even up for me, if it wasn't for games, it was like comics and movies and TV and just general pop culture stuff. So I was like, oh, this is really fun. And I've never really had like a group of friends that were into those same things as me.
Gotcha.
So then I started to jump into that and like Facebook moderating in forums and Twitch and all that kind of stuff. So that became like my after work, like, oh, this is fun.
Gotcha.
And I like doing it. But now that
So now what's it like that it's your job, right? Your full-time job now.
Which is awesome, and I love it.
You fucking better.
And what if I just came in here like, no, this isn't working out, guys?
God damn it.
That's why I wanted
Another one.
But no, like it's been super great and really fun, but then it gets hard for me at home to turn that off.
Sure.
Especially because for social media, like that's how I connect with like a lot of the friends that I've made through this community and stuff. So it's like, well, it's still, what's the separation of like that being fun, but also being work and not getting caught up in finding the separation between the two. And what do I do with all the like creative energy that I was using this for? So I feel like I've ended up playing more games lately.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I think it's like kind of flopped and I've brought that on, but it still doesn't feel right.
Are you still struggling with it?
Yeah. Well, it also hasn't been that long. I feel like it's only been like a couple weeks, so it's still like trial and error and trying to figure out what that looks like. But I feel like you guys might have some input, especially like Kind of Funny was your like after work thing.
100%.
For so long.
I mean, that was that's what when you brought it up. I mean, that was interesting in the fact that for me, the YouTube stuff was exactly what we're talking about of like, what do I do with my creative energy? I'd been at IGN 5 years and I loved it and it had been great and all these different things. But I had been searching before even figuring out YouTube of like, I want to come home and make something and not have it noted to death. Not that that's bad. You know, collaboration, IGN needs that kind of stuff.
About that still.
You were the worst. Walking into an Up at Noon meeting, 30 minutes late, eating an apple. Me and Brian wanted to kill you.
I'd be like, none of these jokes are funny.
Actually, I lied. Because like in the time frame, this is actually when Up at Noon meetings were like 13 people and everyone had a horse in the race and people were super invested.
Yeah, it was great when it eventually went down to just me, you, and
when
Brian.
you jump ahead to the final weeks of Up at Noon before we quit, and it's just me and Brian, and they're like, what do we fucking do? And you come in like, you guys figure it out? Like, get out of here, we hate you.
That's what a producer does, everybody.
But no, it was that thing of like, I wanted to come home and make something for myself, because as much as I loved it working for IGN, and I was treasured that time, 5 years of that coming home and still working. And like, I always talked about it, of like, for that job at the time, and I know it's different now in terms of responsibilities, but it would be that thing of like, you know what, before I roll over, I'm going to check Twitter one last time, and somebody's announced something, and I know that it's PlayStation, so I get up and I write the news story, or you know what I mean?
Dude, I think of you every morning, because I remember you saying that, and that resonated so much to me, that every morning that I roll over and grab my phone and go to open up Twitter, I see your face, and I'm like, no, you know what, put it away. Yeah. Go make some breakfast.
Well, like now it's, the different thing of our business, where it's like, hey, the website's down, or hey, this is happening. Like,
we have a website.
There's nowhere else for it to go. And at the time, me and Colin and Clemens took so much on in terms of like PlayStation being our beat. We wanted something to happen there. But yeah, I was originally, I'm going to write a children's book, and I wrote a manuscript there, and then I looked into publishing it, and I was like, there's a lot of work that I know I don't have the time or the bandwidth for, and then maybe I'll write a comic book, and then it was eventually, I went to VidCon and found YouTube, and I was like, oh, this is exactly what I wanted. But then it was that changeover of like, when I started treating it like a job, where it was, I'm going to wake up, and early youtube.com/GameOverGreggy fans know, at 6 o'clock a new video went live, and I was in the chat, and I would wait, or the comments, I would wake up at 5:45 or 5:50, go out there, wait for it to publish, and go in there to talk to you guys for 20 minutes before I had to, or an hour before I had to start getting ready for work or whatever. And it was like, at the time, 11 people, the same 11 people every time you're talking to. And so it slowly but surely became our lives.
Yeah. I think for me right now, like it's been like year one of Kind of Funny was there was no work-life balance. It was just work, but work was life, so that just worked out. And we're all fortunate to have careers in a field and doing things that I absolutely adore and love. So like I never, even to this day, like there's stuff that we have to do here that you're like, okay, that does kind of feel like work. Like when I have to do payroll or like tax and stuff like that, because it's definitely work. But then I'll hear you guys coursing around in the next room or something, and then I realize like, oh, I got to get this done because I have to go to podcast because we're gonna be live in 10 minutes to a bunch of people that we all know. I'm like, that's not really work. That's just cool and fun. I think lately what I've been doing is, in order to have a little bit more of a balance, is picking extracurricular activities that are still fun, that are still in the sort of same world as what we do here, but that can sort of heighten and add to what I do here. So like stand up, for instance, I feel is just a wealth of like experience and new people and topics that I can bring back to the table. Sure. But I don't feel selfish in saying like last night I spent 3 hours at a comedy club. I didn't get to go up, but I got to watch, I think it was like 10 or 15 really good stand-up comics. And meet some more people and really get ingratiated into that world. But that's stuff that I can come back and share with you guys. And then
that's the really interesting thing about what we do now is the fact that, God, I do say the fact that a lot. Ever since that kid pointed out on Reddit, I'm destroyed. But it's the idea.
You don't say you know what I mean anymore, though. That's good.
Well, so I'll have to start working on the fact that. And I still say you know what I mean, but I think now I use it in a more appropriate manner. Doesn't matter. Is the fact that.
You know what I'm saying? Sorry. You know what I'm saying?
What? You know what I'm saying? Is the fact that what we do outside of this and outside of gaming necessarily, right, actually influences the content more than you think it would. Where, and I know this is stupid, but throwing a party and cutting my hand, us going to the movies, us going out for burritos and the mariachi band and all this different stuff is all dumb shit to talk about. Whereas, like, it's right now, another good thing in terms of perspective and a work-life balance, get married. You know what I mean? Like when I met Jen, like Jen was literally like, thank you.
No, I don't want
just softly. There it is. It's for me, the idea that there's like two game-changing moments in my life of like, oh man, like this is what really matters. Number one, cancer. Of like, you know what? I'm gonna be able to disconnect from IGN and they'll understand. And they did. But even coming back at 100%, I wasn't anymore I'm gonna come in and do SmackDown versus Raw videos at 2 a.m. because I want to get ahead of it. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, no, I wasn't that guy anymore. Like work can wait. And then Jen was the same way of like, oh no, like this is what matters. Everything else can burn down and I hope it doesn't. I'm gonna work as hard as I can to make sure it never does. But being with her is what all that matters at the end of the day, right? And so going into like weekends or stuff, there's still this balance we're trying to figure out. If she's like, hey, do you want to go for a hike this weekend? Blah, blah. And I'm like, I would love to go for a hike. However, I'm a plan ahead kind of guy, and I've been planning on Saturday being fucking video games, and that's what I want to do. And like I've been making this, the whole last week on Kind of Funny Games Daily was very much like, I know I've got to finish Persona. I got to start playing in Persona and play nothing else. And I sat down on Saturday and or Friday night and started playing Persona and nothing else. And I was like, man, the fact that I have to do this means I am not enjoying this at all. Yeah. And I'm doing a disservice to the game and let alone myself and let alone who the fuck really cares? You know what I mean? Like it's a fun idea, but like nobody out there is like, other than Zyger probably is like, you got to do this. So I stopped and I started playing Marvel Heroes and I'm now Spider-Gwen's level 51 in that game. And I played it all weekend. I'm like, this is great. But I marathon binged Marvel Heroes and it's like, there's more stories from the party, there's more stories from the movies than there are from that. And it is that thing of like, you talking about the idea of like seeing things or doing things or expanding your content. For us, reading comics, watching movies, doing this actually influences it. And I come back with different ideas and things I want to do. And so for me, like the hardest part of Kind of Funny always was at IGN, I always thought of myself as a goalie. And so many emails came in and I'm blocking shots and knocking down pucks and doing all this awesome stuff. And like, I'm the smallest indie game in the world. I wanted to show it to you. Can we come on in? We'll make it happen. Yeah. And as soon as you started Kind of Funny, the pendulum swung and it was like, nope, I am missing 1 million goals and that's got to be okay. And so there is that thing of like with, granted we're like the owners or the founders or whatever, but for you and your job too. And for Andy, I hope you know this too, of like, at some point, you got to close the laptop and put it down. Because with this company, there's nonstop work to be done. Don't shake your head, Kevin. Where are the new chairs, huh? Where's my standing Smash setup that I'm gonna play?
It's right there.
That doesn't count.
It's 100%.
You said forever we'd have a TV in that room, and we'd be able to
hire Joey. We're gonna hire.
Why do we hire her?
Why is Smash not on the Switch?
Don't put this on me.
Bring Smash to the Switch, Kevin.
He's got a great point.
Is that Kevin's fault?
It is.
Yes.
Shut up, it is.
Kevin.
Kimishima, email him. He didn't email him back.
Email Reggie.
Kimmy Schmidt.
Kimmy Schmidt.
Unbreakable? So yeah, but I mean, being able to just be like, that's the work that's getting done today. I know for sure I have them. I know you have them because you have them all over your computer monitor. And then I just know how Tim is. We all have 100,000 to-do lists.
Yep.
And it's like, that's what's always so heartbreaking when people pop up and like, hey, like, this thing on the website's outdated. It's like, here's an example literally from today's YouTube comments on Anthony Gallegos' Gamescast of some guy like super positive. And one guy is like, how the fuck is it that Easy Allies with
timestamps?
Yep, with a smaller staff is able to get up timestamps for their episodes and these guys, and then there's all these comments like they're just lazy and they're just this, and it's just like, it's like, no, man, like I hear you, and like that's just not how it works, and I understand why you feel that way, but you don't know what you're talking about. But it's like I could all of a sudden yell at everybody or crack a whip and try to figure it out with you and with Kevin and blah, blah, and it's like we get up the 2 different versions of the podcast and we do this different thing. It's like that's a you got a goal on me there, and I wish in a perfect world I could. That's why I always thumbs up on Games Daily, that one guy who annotates everything. But it's like we're not there. That's not who we are.
Yeah. And I think Nick hit on it too, of like a lot of what I do doesn't really like it feels like work, but it doesn't feel like work at the same time. So then it's like when I get home from the movie and I'm looking at Reddit or I'm checking Twitter, it doesn't feel like work.
But there comes with a weight, right? That you're like the official voice.
And I'm like, oh, but it's midnight. I should probably just like go to bed.
The amount of comments I delete, because I'll be on Reddit and somebody says something and I'm like, and not in a mean way, they'll say something and I'm like, oh, I'm Greg and I've seen this, and I start writing the answer. I'm like, you know what? I don't know the answer. Like, I kind of think I know what Tim or Nick or whoever is doing with this project, but I don't. So I delete it and go away. And I'm like, well, I kind of feel like an asshole for doing that. But it's also like, it also doesn't benefit me to be like, oh, hey, I saw this and Nick will be by one. And will Nick be by? Not because you're Nick.
Yeah, sure.
But because you're busy as well and you have your own responsibilities and things to do.
Yeah.
My hobby never really became my job because I wasn't a video editor. Like, I didn't edit videos at home.
You were
for
making
fun.
games before this.
But I guess my hobby was like just making art. So I guess the design kind of
You made this shirt,
works
right?
into that. No. I made that shirt.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. This is a good shirt. You should have made this.
I should have made that. Yeah, I should have made that one.
I'm just working on it.
But like, I know that there were a lot of people in the community like that were making video breakouts and things. Like Tom Hawkins was always doing that. Like, video editing was never my passion, but I don't know. I felt like I could always do it if I wanted to. It was just never anything that I did at home for fun. But designing always was my passion, and just making art and 8-bit stuff and little fun art pieces.
But so how does
put
it
on
feel for
Tumblr.
you? This is the other thing, is like you're very similar to Joey. Where did you find Kind of Funny and everything else?
I listened to Beyond.
Yeah.
Beyond.
And then
You don't say it when it's mentioned in like a real phrase, but on
But I can't. It's just an automatic
it'd be like if you
thing.
went from Beyond. When you say podcast Beyond or Beyond in referencing the podcast, I'm
but
just
it
letting you know.
just-
I guess
it's
I
just
listened to
automatic.
Beyond and Unlocked and everything, right? I just wanted
Yeah.
video game news, Polygon's podcast, all that shit.
Never heard of him.
And then
I love you.
I guess when you all moved on to do Kind of Funny, I mean, you were still doing Kind of Funny off to the side, but it wasn't video game related.
Sure, yeah.
And until you all started doing the video game stuff on Kind of Funny, that's when I started listening to the rest of Kind of Funny. Because I didn't know that I wanted non-video game content from my video game people.
Interesting.
Until I finally got it, right? It was just something, I was like, no, I don't want to hear them talk about
Pizza.
fucking princesses. Like, I want to, they're my video game guys. I'm not going to go to them for other shit. The same way with like the McElroy brothers. Like, to me, they were always like the Polygon podcast and the Besties podcast and stuff like that. And My Brother, Me was not something I thought I wanted until I finally started listening to it. And then I think I told Tim this on the exclusive Gamescast one that I did with him, the one-on-one, where I noticed that every time there's a RT podcast, Bernie and Barbara were always retweeting fan art and stuff like that people made. And I was like, man, I don't really think that there's like a known person in the Kind of Funny community who does fan art all the time for them. And I would always see like the same few names that were tweeting like art at Bernie and Barb and Gavin and stuff and Blaine. And I wanted to be that guy. So that's why I started making stuff like really consistently. And then the art stuff started turning into t-shirt designs, and then t-shirt designs started turning into more art stuff, and it just kind of like snowballed from there.
Well, that was the thing with you, where it was just like, you know, obviously I saw Joey Noel's name all over the stuff, and then it was Maximum Cortez and stuff. And because were you on Twitch or was?
I was on Twitch all the time.
Exactly. And that was the thing, is like, I didn't want to misspeak just based on the story.
When I was at my first game studio, that's when like Colin and Greg Live first started.
Yeah.
And every day I was watching it at 1 p.m.
And that was so weird for us, and the fact that like we, you know, there's been a million things we didn't expect with this business, but the idea of, oh, cool, like this guy I know from the chat, and then Tim being like, hey, he's tweeting out really cool art. We're gonna do shirts with him. Like, can we do that? Is that a thing? Can we? And like, yeah, we just, oh, okay, all right, that's something. All right, why not do that?
Yeah. And then I got hired at Rooster Teeth, and I still watched.
And I was like, that's it, he's over. We'll never see him again.
He sucks.
Well, it's
Broke
funny
my
because
heart.
I totally forgot the fact, and I forget which game dev job it was, if it was your first or whatever, but you worked at DC Universe Online.
Yeah, I had interned there.
And it was that thing of the first time we ever met at which conference?
It was RTX. It was the first time. It was 2015.
And you mentioned that, and I made the sleigh in it and da da da. I was like, oh, that's totally cool.
Jens was there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I introduced you to her. You knew each other.
Yeah, I was like, hey, you don't know me, but I've seen you in the office before. Blah blah blah.
And and then it's like I totally forgot that you were that guy. I remember that there was a kind of funny person or best friend who had, made something for the slave for DC Universe Online or blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't until like you were already working here when that story came up again. I was like, oh, fuck, that's you? Because it was that thing of like, I remember you from the shirts. I remember from the Twitch chat. I remember like having that conversation, but not having that conversation. And then for me, it's like that jump of like, oh, he's getting hired at Rooster Teeth. And we were all like, oh, fuck. And then when we went to go when I went down to go do the free play 500 or whatever, and there was no partner because I was the only kind of funny person. I was like, well, you hired this guy, Andy, who made our shirts. Can he come do it?
Kind of funny representative.
Right. And that was hilarious because you always tell the story like Meg Turney just walked into the game dev room and nobody knew who you were.
I mean, my game team, obviously, I'd been there for like 2 or 3 months, but anybody outside of the game team didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
Aside from like maybe Bernie, because Tim and you had like talked to Zero off about Andy or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like here comes Meg Turney walking into the games. I was like, I'm looking for Andy Cortez, and I was just like, what? Like, what? Like the cool girl's asking about it. What the fuck?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, Greg wants you to be his partner for this race, this drunk Mario Kart race we're doing. I was like, all right, I'm down. Like,
and for me, in the most traditional, like what I always talk about with the best friend stuff, and like I know some people don't like it, but fuck you, I love it. And the most traditional best friend is we went, we filmed this whole thing, we did all this shit, we're drinking beers, you're on video, you're amazing, and then we climbed in your car to go back and get my bag or whatever, and I sat down next to you and I was like, so is this weird for you? Like you're with me, but you're also with all these people. They didn't know who you were. You're like, yeah, it's kind of weird. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, I think that's what like got me to, have all these awesome friendships there. Cause at first I was just the other guy that nobody fucking knew there.
Yeah.
And I was like trying to like, how do I fit in? I felt like the kid who went to the party with all the cool kids. And I was like, how do I get them to like me? Like without being too forceful,
Just be yourself.
Yeah.
Best friends.
Yeah. Right, Nick?
Definitely.
Nick doesn't like you yet, but he's warming up to you.
He's warming up to me.
I love you.
Warming up to me.
So has that helped? I don't know.
Kind
How
of.
to balance your work stuff. Like, don't worry about it as much. Like, you're never going to be able to get it all done. That's the biggest thing. And you want, I know, don't trust me. I didn't like it at all, but it had to get used to, like, it's that thing now where, like, when I zero out the inbox, or at least get it down to 5. Yeah. I'm like, nailed it. And like, the inbox is overflowing right now because I forget this past Friday we did something and it ate up all my time. And then it was like, now I'm way behind on everything. But it's like, people, they'll wait. They understand. They don't, whatever.
I think the thing that matters most is like, whenever I think of something that I think is funny or cool to make, the excuse I have to do it is that it's my job. Where at first, if it was something in my free time, like I'm at Rooster Teeth, the ideas that I'm going to think of aren't going to do anything because I'm not in that space. I'm not in the live action space or whatever. But if I think of like a stupid skit or a dumb like ad that we can make,
that's cool.
That's something that we can do because it's 5 people here.
Right.
So that gives me a lot more incentive to want to do it because it's not only my job, but I think it's like, oh, this will get done rather than just like an idea that's floated in the office and never heard about again.
Yeah, make it happen. Make it happen, Captain. As they said in the Captain Crunch commercials.
They did say that.
That was great.
Thanks for watching the Game Over Greggy show, everybody. Click here to subscribe to Kinda Funny. Click here to watch a playlist of other episodes. Click here to go over to Kinda Funny Games. Click here to go to Patreon. Yeah, I could have promoted other things in there, but I didn't. Now, Nick, show him your dick. I know you want it. Alan, fix my dad. I'm good.